Hi, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of this series with Lucia and Hadassah Healing Oils. Welcome, Lucia.
Thank you.
So we are very excited about today's session. So yesterday in part 1, we spoke a little about who is Lucia. We spoke about your journey of stepping into your calling. We spoke about the importance of the period of being in a wilderness and how you should really use that time that you are in the wilderness. And then we also concluded on our highlights where you shared of how Hadassah Healing Oils was born. So today, Lucia, will you please just share with us a little bit more about the heart of Hadassah Healing Oils and really what your passion is within this ministry?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. It's so nice to be with you guys today again. And yesterday's session was really special for me. I think the Lord completely did something unique in what He wanted to do and what He wanted to say. And there's so much more to say on that, and there's so much more to go even deeper in things that we haven't even mentioned in the session of yesterday. But let's see what he wants to share today, and maybe some of those things will also come out. Hadassah Healing Oils was born out of a place of deep intimacy with the Lord, deep longing for more of Him, and to see the truth of the Word, the truth of who He is, to see that come into life in the world around us physically. I think a lot of people do worship and have a living relationship with the Lord, but not a lot of people truly see the fruit of the kingdom in and around their lives. And in my life, I really had a longing to see the Lord move and to see Him work and to see Him just doing what He says He does. And for a long period in my life, I did not see the fulfillment of the promises of God. I did not see the fulfillment of people getting healed and Him being the only healer, in the pharmacy where you help people with medicines. And please, again, this is nothing to do about the pharmacy or nothing to do about any person in the medical industry. But when I worked in the pharmacy and I gave people their medicine, each person had the exact same script, almost exactly the same. They had the same recipe of medicines that they took, and I could see just a normal protocol that was given to everybody, even though their situation isn't really compared to the one next to them, and it's unique. And how is it possible for everybody to be on the same medicines and nobody having any effect of it? I always tell people, how is it possible for you to drink your high blood pressure medicine? If I can just take an example of one type of medicines, and there are thousands of them and thousands of different sicknesses. But how is it possible for you to take your high blood pressure medicine, which is classified as medicine, a substance that is supposed to heal you, a substance that is supposed to treat the disease or to treat the problem, and then having taken it for the rest of your year chronically, for the rest of your life, and never getting off of it, and it is, it's not treating anything. It's just managing a symptom. It's disguising a symptom. It's just, opening up so many other things in the body as well. So Hadassah was born out of a place of really seeking the Father's face in my personal life, for my family, for people around me that I loved and that I really cared for, to search for them for healing and to search for answers for how does healing really take place. How, if He is the healer, then He must heal. I just don't think a lot of people understand the way that He heals as the healer. He's the healer, so He must have medicines. And what does that medicines look like? How do they function? If a medicine is from the Lord, then what is the difference in the functioning of that medicine than the rest of the medicines that we buy, that is made from chemical substances. Because the Father is the only source of healing. And even though we have a very vast range of medicinal products or oils and herbs, I always tell people that the oils and the herbs should not in any way replace God or be the first thing that you run to if you're sick. The oils and the herbs and everything that He has given us within the garden are there to help us to rebuild our bodies, to help us to strengthen our bodies, to help us to heal our bodies in a specific way. Because everything that the Lord does, He does on a specific blueprint. He is the Father of blueprints. So everything that He has designed that carries a God design on it carries a blueprint. And medicines also carry a blueprint. So I started seeking the Father for these blueprints and to understand these deeper things. And if I can just tell a scripture, that was written over my heart in my starting years of Hadassah, it would be, if you seek me, you'll find me. And I really asked the Father to reveal the hidden mysteries and the hidden secrets of the kingdom. And He tells us in scripture that there will be a time where the kings will rise up to search for the hidden mysteries and the hidden secrets. And He's the one that reveals that. He never revealed this information that we have today and these revelations about oils and natural medicines 30 or 40 years ago. He decided to reveal it now because of the specific time that we are in currently. And because of the intense pressure that there is in the spiritual realm for the bride and for the body of Christ to come into alignment, for us to be prepared for what is going to take place. And out of His goodness and out of His kindness, He does reveal incredible revelations and blueprints for us to understand so that we can walk in the fullness of what He has prepared for us. So Hadassah Healing Oils started when I was in university. I started making blends and different types of combinations and formulations for every single person that I encountered. I just wanted to help, see them get healed. So I started and, while studying all of the different medications in the pharmacy, I started mixing oils for somebody who had a thyroid condition, and for somebody who had cancer, and for somebody who had a tumor, and for somebody who had, incredible back pain. And I just started formulating things. And while mixing, the Lord started speaking to me and showing me what to do, what to mix, how to mix it. And the really deep secret in all of this, or the mysteries in all of this, is how to mix it. How do the ancient perfumers make medicine? How does the concentrations and the mixing process work for medicines to truly be able to carry the blueprint and the breath and the spirit that comes from God? And so it's really very special. And so I just started making medicines for people and teaching, and then trying to teach people how to heal themselves. And then I understood they are not getting the message as I'm getting it. So I just started to make the medicines for them. And out of making the medicines for them, it just absolutely exploded into a very, very, very big thing that I never intended for it to be. And there were people where I gave conferences in those first few years that asked me if they could just be like a central point of a distribution point in their area. Can they just, when I mix oils, can I just send it to them so that they can start being a quicker point of access to the oils, especially in COVID? There were incredible pressure on us in COVID. I can't even comprehend how we went through that time. I used to send out more than 400 COVID protocols, like COVID steam is a specific oil that we made for COVID, a day, meaning I help 400 people on the phone a day. And then I realized this is really a big issue, because for me to courier to that person, it's just not going to be there's not time to wait for me to courier to that person. So I had to send boxes of these COVID protocols to different people in the country. And I just told them, okay, go and get it with this distributor or that distributor. So the distributing network of Hadassah really wasn't there in the beginning because we didn't think that it was going to be a business, or I didn't think it was going to be a business. I didn't even think it was a thing. I just thought I helped people who came to me with symptoms, and then I made a mixture for them. And so we grew in a massive amount of distributors. I think we have over 250 distributors currently. I lost track of count on them, but almost every area in South Africa has a distributor. There's a lot of distributors already in the nations. We have a lot of distributors in the Africa continent. And then there are some internationally as well. And I believe the Lord will also enlarge that in the nations as he gives us, you know, the maturity and the character for everything that we need to do for the nations. It's been a very intense year, the past year, to prepare for the nations. I don't think in Hadassah every year is quite intense because the Father takes us through immense fires, but the last year has been very intense. To get all of our structures in the business, or the, you know, let's just say the operational side of Hadassah, built on a very firm foundation for it to be able to hold and to carry the nations. To not collapse and to not be not strong enough. We really focused a lot in building the structure for us to be able to take what we are doing, what we have done in South Africa, and what we are doing in some nations globally. So that's where Hadassah started. It started with me helping individuals, and then over years of helping thousands of people with different situations, I started designing protocols for specific diseases with information that we've retrieved from testimonials, from the effect of certain treatments on them and how fast those treatments worked for them. And so I always tell you, you need to test everything with the fruit that it carries. You cannot tell a person he needs to do something and you can't, there's no fruit to show for it. So the protocols have all been designed for more than 500, I believe, even more diseases, and they're all listed on the website, which is a free tool for the nations to use. Every person can log into our website, hadassahhealingoils.com, and there's a whole page designed, which is more like a workbook or like a reference book, where you can go and see how to treat ADHD, how to treat brain cancer, how to treat liver, fatty liver or liver problems. So we have all of those sicknesses listed with protocols that we've seen work the best, carry the most fruit, have the best results in treating all of those diseases very specifically. And the reason for that is, I think people, when they look at oils, and I want to say this with really utmost respect, but also I think it's something that needs to be said. When they look at oils, they they look at it out of, okay, every single person in the world can just mix an oil and take a drop of this and a drop of that and 2 drops of this and a drop of that, and now I have something for allergies. But oils are not something that is really, it's extremely complicated. It's extremely complicated, and you need to know what you're doing. You need to understand dosages, and you need to understand administration, and you need to understand disease treatment plans for you to really understand how to use oils in the correct way to treat a disease. And for years, people have used oils. First of all, they didn't use pure oils. That's a very big problem. But also they used oils in an incorrect way, not the correct dosage, not the correct administration. And they didn't have effects on that because of the way they used it, or because of the fact that it was not really pure oils. So the protocols are there to help people understand how to treat specific things in the correct way and in the correct dosage to have the fastest effect. If we have a fourth grade cancer patient, we do not have 6 months to apply oil on the skin and to see if it works. You know, there's not time to see if it's going to work. You need to understand the specific protocol to treat that thing and to get the body to deprogram that disease programming out of the body as quick as possible. So that is the reason for designing the protocols. And it also just opened up so much time on my hands, because I used to answer every single person personally. And it just came to a point, I spoke to you when we had that first call, I told you my average screen time a day was 16.5 hours of just answering people every day. And that just became impossible for one person to answer all of these people. And now what we're doing is we're really focusing on training people and training distributors and training people that come to our healing seminars and our sessions, to equip them to be able to help other people, to be able to understand exactly how to do it. It's such an easy thing to understand. If you understand the blueprint of how the body functions, the blueprint of how the Lord's created medicine, it is so easy to understand how to heal it. It's just different for every disease.
But I think what is so special is, especially from your name and throughout your journey, if you look at every single stepping stone of your life where Abba has prepared you for this and equipped you for this with this knowledge to create all of these protocols for the nations, but also now because of this journey that he walked with you, you are able to equip others as well and educate others, because it's not about, as you said, just about an oil. It's about the blueprint. It's about how our body works. It's about the spiritual meaning behind it. It's about how Abba Father anoints you through that oil, and how he heals you, because he's the ultimate healer, as you mentioned. So yeah, I think it's really awesome to see. And that what I want to say is I want to encourage other people as well to go and look at the stepping stones in your life, to plot out the journey in your life, because you will really look back and see how amazingly Abba Father is putting the puzzle of your calling together and revealing piece by piece to you to build this beautiful picture of what he wants you to enter into. And I think, like you say, sometimes it really happens overnight, but then you often forget the amount of work that was put into it. So yes, you maybe presented 2 seminars and overnight your whole year was booked fully for the year ahead. But the process leading up to that was really a process of hardship and struggle, a process of trust and obedience in Abba Father. So you did touch on it a little bit, Lucia, but you said that Hadassah Healing Oils really started to become a business, and it's not something that you expected or even knew that was going to happen. But as people reached out, as the seminars happened, as your capacity filled up, and you had no choice but to put in these formal structures. Excuse me. Yeah, just tell us a bit about the difference between ministry and business and the perception out there about ministry and business.
Okay, so I'm just going to explain a bit of how Hadassah started to become a business. I think it was a business in the beginning, because I had to buy, I imported oils, I had to mix them, you have stock to buy, you have specific things that you need to have money to buy. So if we can look at it out of a money point of view, but the intent of it was always, from my point of view, only ministry. I thought this is a ministry, and I actually thought I needed to register it as a ministry, because this is what the Lord gave me to the calling. And the calling that he gave me for Hadassah was to go out and to heal all nations. And if you read Revelations 22, it says that the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So That is an incredible scripture that I teach about to open up what Revelations 22 actually says. But with any calling and with any scroll, there is a practical side to it, a practical side to just being able to walk it out and to being able to fulfill it on an earthly realm. And out of my seasons, my past seasons of being extremely prophetic, I didn't have any. It's really crazy to say this, but I did not know what was the difference at all between VAT and tax at all. And it took people months to try and get it into my head. Because when Hadassah needed to register for VAT and I needed to pay taxes, I was like, what in the world? This is a ministry. How is it possible? You know, it's crazy for me to think that we need to register for VAT. But out of a very prophetic part in my life where I understood the Spirit and I understood scrolls and callings and mandates, there's a physical side to everything that needs to be walked out. And the higher calling, the more resources you need.
Sure.
So what is extremely special about the Father's way of how he designs these scrolls is that within the scroll is everything that you need in order to fulfill the scroll. So if you do not have what you need currently in where you are in ministry, my question, there's some reasons for that, but my question is going to be, are you in the correct calling? Because if he has called you to do something, he always provides the resources that is necessary for that calling. He's not going to call you for something and the resources isn't there. Then you need to really go and ask him if you are in the correct place or in the correct season. It might be that there might be a curse on you or a bloodline curse or whatever, and that absolutely is true. But if you have worked through everything and there's no resources for what you need to do, then you need to ask the Father, what is the reason for that? Because the scroll that he gives you, the mandate that he gives you, already has those resources attached to them in the Spirit. Because I just want to say that. So I had this big dream of healing the nations. And I knew the Lord is going to do. I always tell people, when the Father asks, he told me, he didn't ask me, he told me, I'm going to send you out to heal the nations. And I thought, wow, you know, just like the crown, this is amazing. I can't wait. And then I never realized the amount of admin that it would take in order to actually walk that out. The admin that it takes in order for me to be able to teach at a conference, what happens at our office, at the, you know, in the back end or at the backstage of me giving a healing conference is I currently have 18 personnel working for me full time, just working on the admin side of Hadassah to be able to do what Hadassah is doing. So we have a calling, we have a mandate, and we are really actively doing that and walking that out. But behind that, there is a massive group of people who are working, you know, they're actually laying down their lives in order for me to be able to do this. That is working full time for Hadassah for us to do what we're doing. So there's a massive admin part to this whole process that we can say it's the business part of Hadassah. I don't really like to call it a business. I like to still just call it a ministry, because it is my heart to just have it be a ministry. And sometimes there would be people coming to me who are really sick, and I would just give them whatever they need without them paying for anything, because the Lord has provided enough for me to be able to give whatever certain people need, even if they do not have finances to buy specific products. But oils are extremely expensive. If you do want pure, good quality, therapeutically great oils, they are truly very expensive, and the process to make them are very expensive. So for us to be able to get the oils into the country currently is also just a big step of faith, because sometimes only the Lord knows how it's possible for us to, to get what we need. Besides just getting the raw products and the raw material to make a physical product, there is a massive part of Hadassah that is the personnel, the people that is not seen on the cover of the cover of the website. It's the people that are working day and night to get shipments into nations, to get parcels cleared at borders, to get parcels packed. We have 2 to 3 people packing orders daily, every single day, and all they do is they pack every single order. And without them, we wouldn't be able to get the orders to people. We have people that are constantly, every single day, just working on the website to be able to make sure that that website is live and in such a way so that everybody in all the nations can access it. So there are so many critical parts to being able to run a ministry for me to help people, and for me to answer 150 people a day that struggle with things, and I always answer them, free of charge. I never ask a fee for taking 10 hours a day to answer their messages. Sure. And I think you can really relate to that. You told me in our first session, I literally sit the whole day just answering messages. Yeah. Because there are so many people inquiring. And even though I do have 18 personnel, some of the questions and most of the questions only I can answer, because they do not have that medicinal understanding to answer it. So it is, yeah.
No, I think it's just so awesome if you look at it that way, that Abba will provide all the resources that you need and equip you for you to be able to stand in ministry. But that only comes from a point where you trust him for the provision of that, and not force anything or get into that mindset of, okay, but the end of the month is coming. How am I going to pay for this and this and this? But he really put a structure around you, not in terms of only finances, provision in all aspects, in terms of, like you mentioned, the website, like you mentioned, the people who assist you with the distributions, the aankope, the purchases. So it's just amazing that he set that framework around you up so that you can focus on spending 16 hours a day answering those questions that only you can answer, really practicing the gifts that he has given you.
And I also want to share about how that structure came into place, because it wasn't a thought out structure. It wasn't, we didn't start Hadassah, or I did not start Hadassah with a structure in mind. My husband tells people that wat is dit nou in Engels? In Afrikaans is dit, ek het nie die Engels verder nie. Ek skiet en dan mik ek, en hy mik en dan skiet hy. So, because of my very prophetic nature and my very forerunner personality, I usually never have a system in place, but I have God-given incredible people around me who does understand and who does know how to create a system for me. I have these amazing ideas and these amazing concepts, but I don't have a system for that to actually function well. So the structure of Hadassah really came with a lot of time and with a lot of personnel, because we could only do in certain seasons what we could with the amount of people that I could afford to pay a salary for every month. And it was really, amazing what the Lord did. So our website we only launched our website 2 years ago. And before that, all orders was just done manually. I just wrote out a list of my protocol for a person, and everything was just shipped out. I had these little papers, and a lot of people who've been with me from the start of Hadassah would know. You would have gotten a photo of a little paper that I wrote. I never even did an invoice. I just wrote the oils, how much they cost, and the person's name, and those papers were, courier went out every single day for them to them, and that was their invoice, and it was terrible, and I'm so sorry about that. Please forgive me for everybody listening to how it was in the beginning. But there wasn't a structure. We came to a point where we bought our own labeling machine in the last year, for us to be able to laminate and to label all of our products in our factory, in our warehouse, because all of our products have batch codes on them. And it's just an incredible big system that is running on an amazing God-given blueprint that he has designed. And I would have never been able to think about distributors and distributing centrums and warehouse systems and stock in every area. But he is so faithful to guide us in the process in how these systems need to look and how the structures need to look. But it really is a process, and it takes time to create a system for a ministry to function at its best. Sure. If I had to look at the admin side of Hadassah, I would have never been able to really minister in the way that I do, because the admin side would absolutely just swallow you in. If I had to do invoices and recons and bookkeeping, I would have never been able to do the ministry side of what we're doing, because that admin side really, it can consume you. So I would suggest for a person who is going into ministry or who is in ministry, and at the beginning stage, it really is difficult because you do not have a person that you can trust, or you don't have somebody to help you with the admin side. But I would suggest that you try and outsource the admin, the part that really takes your time and takes the fire away from what you're doing. Try and get somebody to help you a day in a week or a half a day to help with those things that can consume you, so that you can focus on the calling that the Lord has given, so that you are able to focus on recording teachings or speaking to people or hosting an event or whatever it is that you're doing. Try and separate the two, the business side, the admin side, from the ministry side. And try really ask the Father to give you people that you can trust with the admin side of the ministry. Because I also had to really go through very difficult situations with people that worked for us that did not have the same heart, that did not have the same intention. And it's really important to have people in your ministry that also went through the fire, in your ministry that has the same heart and that has the same intention. And it's taken me years to really get a group of people who I can trust with the structure of Hadassah, so that we can go forward into the nations.
Sure. I think what I can gather from you as well is it probably took a lot of patience as well from you, and trusting the process, and returning to Abba Father and sitting at his feet, returning to his face, to really have that discernment as to who you should ask to help you with the ministry, and when also there's maybe a point where your visions no longer align, or where your calling no longer aligns with specific aspects of certain people, but also to have a team that really connects with you, but really connects with the Father as well, to understand the heart of the ministry behind everything, and who's willing to persevere despite the many challenges that come with ministry as well.
Yeah, and there are many challenges that come with ministry. I always tell people the one oil that I use the most, I don't use a lot of oils because my body has already went through that healing process, but the one oil that I do use the most is still trauma bleed, because of how intense ministry is. It is one of the most intense, criticized, judgmental, jealous places to be in. Very, very interesting to me how people who are in ministry are the ones that they get judged the most, and they get criticized the most on what they do, from people who most of the time do not know a thing about them. Absolutely don't know their heart, absolutely do not know anything from that person. And I will always be the person on the lookout for people that I know in ministry. If I'm in a conversation and there's a discussion on a specific person in ministry, I would always be the one telling them, this is not the truth, or, you don't know this person, because I really know what it feels like to be judged and to be criticized and to be placed in a specific context out of people who think they know the Lord, but they don't know me at all. Sure. And, they look at what I do, and they look at what we do, and they really judge what we do out of a place of not knowing at all what we're busy with. And I think this is something that needs to be addressed in the body of Christ. It's really bad. It is, it's really, really bad to see how people can speak about other people without really knowing them. And how people warn, most of the times, people in the body of Christ against a person without really understanding and knowing what they're doing, just from what they think they're doing or what they heard other person say that they're busy with. So please be very careful with this. I don't know if you have been in any situation like that, Lucia, with your ministry.
I think, yes, I've experienced that ministries have quite a lot of challenges, and there's really, the enemy wants to attack, and he wants to draw you away from the face of Abba Father, to focus on other things, to focus on other situations, and not spend time in the Word, because it can consume your mind so much that by the time you get to the Word, you are tired, because this has been in your mind the whole day. And I think for me, it's so important to anoint yourself every morning that you wake up, and really appoint this day to the Lord, and really ask him to remove you, take you away from any distractions, from any attack, from any fleshly things that can keep you away from his spirit and from his light, to do what he has called you to do. And for me, it's also so important that there's so many division in the body of Christ, and especially among ministries as well. There's division, and I think that breaks our Father's heart, because he's a God of community. He's a God of connection. He's a God that wants to bring his body together. He's calling the fullness of his bride, not only the individuals within his bride. So yeah, I think it's something we can definitely pray for all of us in ministry, to really be anointed and appoint our days to the Lord, and not allow distractions to move us away from him.
Absolutely. Yeah, so what did we speak about before this? I forgot our sequence now,
but I think something that we maybe can speak about as well, I think you did mention it earlier as well, is the mindset of the ministry needs resources as well for you to be able to stay in ministry. So oftentimes I think in ministry there is a mindset that you are in ministry, so there isn't enough resources, or you understand what I'm asking is
okay, so I think what I would like to speak about again is something very personal to me. It's going to be very personal in my life, and I'm gonna give this as an example for people who struggle to get the understanding of really what is the difference between the ministry and the business part, and money within ministry. Okay, so money is just a tool to do the things that needs to be done in an earthly realm for the kingdom. So in my opinion, you cannot separate ministry and your calling from your personal life. Okay, you cannot separate your house, your personal life with your calling and your ministry, which is here. I want to explain it. I hope I'm explaining it correctly for you to understand. A lot of people have a part that they say, okay, this is ministry. This is my personal life. This is what I do for the calling that the Lord has given me. But this is, my salary every month. And this salary that I have every month, I buy food, I buy whatever you buy. And the ministry part only stays in the ministry part because that is what I use for whatever, I'm going to do. Let's say you make little food packets for children who don't have food. In my opinion, your calling is so deeply intertwined with you that you cannot separate yourself into different boxes. Okay, so if the Lord provides specific things for the calling or for your calling, it is your life. Your life is your calling. So everything that the Lord ever has provided for Hadassah, all of that has been going towards the calling of Hadassah. Everything that I've done in my life, every decision that I made, every decision to grow Hadassah for us to be able to access the nations, every single resource that came into Hadassah was used in order to grow this specific calling. I never took a part of it for personal life or a part of it for, okay, I need to buy groceries now. Do you understand? Because my life and my ministry is one thing. And I have the responsibility to walk out this calling. And I have a responsibility to do it and to take care of it in the way that to steward it in the way that the Lord is asking of me. So let me give you some explanations or just practical things that I had to go through. So when I started, the Father laid it on my heart to buy a farm for a farm to build a factory on, to build the warehouse or big manufacturing area for Hadassah to be able to go into the nations. So currently I have a factory in Klerksdorp. I don't even like to call it a factory. Let's just call it a ministry house. I have a ministry house in Klerksdorp. And that is where we make all of the oils and everything we create there, and we produce it there. And from there, it gets shipped out. But that is too small to be able to facilitate the nations. Absolutely too small. It's really effective for South Africa and for some of the African nations, but it would be absolutely too small for us to go into nations with that factory. And from the beginning, which was about 4 or 5 years ago, the Father started speaking to me about this farm that I need to buy. And obviously, I traveled over South Africa a lot, and I visited all of the areas that I thought would be perfect for a farm. So I went to look for farms in every single area that I visited. And I went to look for plots and for little, bigger, like a hectare piece of land or a 2-hectare piece of land that I could have a house for me and then the factory. And that's what I was thinking. And I actually, after 2 or 3 years, I put an offer on a farm that I found in St. Lawrence. It's very close to Somerset West.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a beautiful area, and it's in the mountains. And the Father spoke specific things to me about how this farm was supposed to look. And I compromised on so many of the things that he told me because of, first of all, my eager to do it quickly and my frustration that the farm hasn't already been there after 3 years, and also because of the mindset that I had, not what the Lord had on how this farm should look like. I had a mindset that it would be a small place where I can build a house, I can do the factory, a big factory, and maybe even if it's big enough, I can build a house for my parents there. And so that was the idea that I had on the farm, but it never was what the Lord spoke to me. And so I went through the whole process of buying this piece of land that I really thought, it's in my budget. And my budget was really small because everything that was ever given into Hadassah was put aside to buy the farm. Everything. The father told me, from the moment you start, you need to put everything aside to buy the farm. And so I was just faithful in that and putting every single thing aside that was over every month, after paying all of our expenses and all of the expenses that goes with the office. And so I had a budget based on the amount that was currently in that account. And I thought, okay, this was from the Lord. And I started going into the process of buying the farm. And the father spoke to me one night just before I signed the papers. And he told me in a dream, if a seed falls to the ground on St. Lawrence, will it grow? And I'm always very frustrated when he speaks in a parable, because, I mean, just tell me what you want to tell me. I'm like, I don't know. I think a seed will grow if it falls to the ground. It seems like it would grow if it falls to the ground. It's a perfectly beautiful piece of land. Yeah. Why would the seed not grow? And so I was contemplating, will the seed grow or won't it grow on this piece of land that I was so close to buying and so close to pouring everything that the Father has prepared for 4 years in this piece of land to do the factory in that area. And I really looked at a lot of places. I even looked throughout Namibia at farms. There's a lot of farms that I looked at in Namibia, and I was extremely frustrated because I couldn't find a place, and I couldn't find a place in my budget. And I think that was the most critical point. I couldn't find a place in the little reference point, in the little mindset that I had for what it needs to look like. And the Lord told me when I prayed about this piece of land, he said, if you buy this piece of land, you will burn your whole harvest. And I withdrew from it, and I went to Israel the end of that year. And the Lord really had to take me out of my situation, of my consuming, all-consuming, let me just say that, office, in order to speak to me clearly about this farm. And so when I was in Israel last year, the Father started speaking to me again, and I obviously prayed. I prayed about 2 things in Israel. One was the farm, which is very, very like a burden on me. And the other was I needed my husband. And I was praying these 2 things, the farm and my husband, and the farm and my husband, and also the nations and the farm, to me was the same thing, because the farm opens up the nations. And one day at the Wailing Wall, I was crying, really weeping at the Wailing Wall, and just asking the Lord, please reveal my husband, Father, and please open up nations. And Lord, you're saying this, but I don't understand. Please, can you just open up the nations? And while praying for the nations, I prayed for my husband, and the Lord asked me, what do you want me to do first? Do you want me to open up the nations first, or do you want me to bring you your husband first? Sure. Because whatever he's going to do, you don't just pray for the nations. It takes incredible amount of resources to go into the nation. It's not just going into a nation. And then I was like, okay, I definitely need my husband before I'm able to go into the nation.
You need that support.
Yeah, I definitely need my husband first. So I was like, Lord, please give me my husband first. And I met him in January, and we got married in September. So we'll share that testimony next week with you. But what I'm trying to say, I'm just trying to get us to a point. Every single thing that I've done in my life, I don't separate that from our ministry, because this is everything that I'm doing within Hadassah or within my personal life is my ministry. Every single thing that I'm doing it for the Lord, for a specific purpose, with a specific plan and view in mind, for us to be able to heal the nations. So if I need to buy a laminating machines for our labels, or if I need to buy a farm, or if I need to take a week off because I need it for me to rest, everything that I do goes towards the same thing, to the ministry, to the calling that the Father has placed on my life. You know, if I go buy bread or whatever, everything is for the same reason. It's to fulfill the calling that He has placed on my life. There's not a separation of me being just me at home and me being Hadassah in front of a group of people and teaching them about a subject. It's the same thing for me. Ministry and my personal life is one thing. So let me just finish the thing about the farm. And so the Father just told me that I very almost bought an Ishmael. And the Ishmaels, you will always see them in your life. They are always going to be there. And the Father will always test your obedience and your heart with the Ishmaels. He will always test you. In everything that I had to do, there was an Ishmael. And I had to discern between the Ishmael and the Isaac being the promise of the Lord. And so the Lord took me to Israel and I started praying. And in the first trip last year to Israel, the Father very clearly spoke to me about the farm. And I knew that it is this farm that I'm currently sitting on. I'm on the farm currently. And I thought, Father, but this is not in my budget at all. You know, this is much, 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 much more than I thought I would be able to do, much more. And He kept on speaking to me about this farm. And I was like, Lord, I have no idea how you want to do. If you want us to have this farm, absolutely. But please tell me, how is it going to be possible? Because I do not have the money to buy the farm. You know, it's not in my budget at all. And I think if people come and visit the farm, we are opening up a guest house here in the week, so it's going to be very special for the bride. And I think a lot of people will probably come to the farm and they'll be like, oh my goodness, I wonder how much money this girl makes. Me? How is it possible for her to buy a farm like this? She must make so much money out of these oils. And then I'm just laughing because it is only the living God that is able to do this. This is not a reflection of how hard I've worked or how much time I've put into what we have done. This is only a reflection of the faithfulness of God for what He wants to do. And everything in this farm is only a reflection of that it is the Lord's property and that He is preparing this for a specific purpose, and He is just giving us the resources to be able to walk out what He has called us to do. So you start getting a mind shift on how you see ministry and how you see business. Because to me, this is not a business. This is my life. It is the fruit of my life. It is the inheritance that I'm leaving for a generation of what I've done for the kingdom. It is, it's every single second of my life I've poured into this, into what He has asked me to do. And I've never done it and asked Him for a specific salary every month or for a specific, monthly income or hourly wage or whatever that might be. I've just done it out of obedience. And this is the fruit of those years of obedience. And when I look at the farm now and what He has done, and this is an incredible testimony, I can absolutely see that the farms that I looked at were way too small and it would have never have worked for what He wanted to do. Sure. And in the beginning, we always see the very small picture, the very small, okay, I need a factory that's going to be this big and we need to be able to manufacture this amount of oils a month. but he sees the eagle vision. He sees the bigger picture, and he knows what you really need to be able to fulfill the calling. And it is all about that, to be able to fulfill the calling. And people's callings they're not the same. The vastness, the size of the calling isn't the same, the impact of the calling isn't going to be the same, because there's going to be people with a calling that has a very important calling, the same importance than this calling for healing the nations, but the resources they need to fulfill that might not be that much. It might not be a massive farm for them to produce all of the medicines. It might be a little house that they need to sit in. And that is what the Lord will provide. He will provide what you need for the calling. So don't look at it as if it is a business and as if it is your personal life. My tongue is, yeah.
Sure, it's really a powerful revelation that Abba has given you. And I think before we close, I know you've shared a lot about the farm, but just in you sitting on the farm today, so how did it all came to be?
Okay, so after Israel, I landed in South Africa, and the next day I drove to the farm. And the Lord spoke two things to me about the property. He told me first that there would be an east gate on the property. The property's entrance would be an east-facing gate. And he spoke to me so much about out of scripture, out of the east gate, and what he wants to do, because the east gate is a portal. Okay, Munani weghard with me. The east gate is a very special. And in Israel, at the east gate, it's an incredible place to pray. But the promises of the east gate are immense and vast, and some of the promises are that the glory of the Lord will rise through the east gate, and the glory for the healing of the nations, for what the Father wants to do in the nations, also would come out of the east gate. So it also says that your sons will come from the east gate. Your seed is within the east gate. So nevertheless, he told me there would be an east gate. So the night before I came to look at the farm, I drove to the gate of the farm with my little compass to see where is the gate facing. And it was 100% east gate. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. Maybe it's confirmation. And then the Lord told me also that there would be a fountain on the farm. Sure. And I envisioned, again, in my very small box of thinking, for a year and a half, I looked at properties that had a fountain, a ceramic fountain in the garden. I not once thought it's going to be an actual fountain. I thought, okay, I went to places that had the name 3 fountains, or a fountain in the garden, or a fountain, on the wall, or some sort of ceramic fountain. I thought that is what the fountain was going to be. I never thought it's going to be an actual fountain, but not one fountain, fountains flowing out of the ground of the property. So there's a lot of fountains flowing out of the ground, and we're completely off of the grid. We have water out of the fountains, and it's very special. And I'm extremely privileged that the Lord is trusting me to develop and to steward this property for what he wants to do. I feel very honored, and I most of the times feel absolutely not equipped for it. Most of the times I just ask him, Lord, what are you thinking? I mean, I don't think I'm equipped for this. Most of the times, even with the rest of the things of Hadassah, I've really asked the Father, why have you chosen me for this? It's really, I don't think I have it in me. And it's a humbling place to be, where you know that what he has called you for it's not out of yourself. He will equip you. He will help you in order to fulfill that which he wants to do, because at the end of the day, it is everything that we are doing is for him, and everything is for what he wants to do. We are just stewards of it. And if we do not steward it correctly, I promise you, he will give it to someone else. Because, if you don't steward what he's given you correctly, then he's not going to entrust you with it. If you are trustworthy, he's going to trust you with more. And when he trusts you with more, it's because of what he wants to do for himself. It's not about you. The ministry is not about you. It's not about what you want. It's about what the Lord wants to do and how much he can trust you in your life in fulfilling what he wants to do and not what you want to do. So that's a massive key in separating and understanding that every business that is within a ministry is all about the Lord. And it's about resources for what he wants to do for himself and for his people.
Absolutely.
So I went to my father after visiting the farm, and I told him, okay, I need to make a plan because the Lord told me this is my farm and I need to, buy the farm. And I said, but I have no idea how I'm going to do it. I need to get a loan from a bank. And even in that time, I didn't even believe or think it is proper for any Christian to have a loan for anything, because I thought that any type of wat is skuld?
Debt.
Any type of debt is not from the Lord. It was a big mindset that I had, that any type of loan for anything would be absolutely, nothing that I wanted to do, because it's not from God. And he showed me very clearly that I need to go to the bank and I need to get a loan. And then I thought, but Lord, a loan is not from you. And then he showed me in scripture that his people had 7 years in order to pay off a loan.
Sure.
And I couldn't argue with that. So I went to a bank with my father and I asked them for a loan. And I'm, this little girl sitting in front of very big business people, and I'm not very businessy. And I'm just telling them what I want to do with the farm. I'm being very honest with them. I'm telling them I want to make medicines to export into the nations, and this is what the Lord has called me to do. And he's given me this farm, and I know it's a farm from him. So if you don't want to give me the loan, don't worry, because the Lord will provide it, because he's already told me that, this is the place. So I'm not worried at all. And it took months for them to go through everything. And they visited our office. They visited my my whole factory, and they 3 of them together came to ask me, okay, what is it that you're doing? Because we have no idea what you're doing. Before we can give you a loan, we need to understand, what are you doing? Because we don't understand. And I started taking them through the factory, taking them through the oils and what we're doing and what our structure is and what we're busy with. And they were completely amazed and baffled. And I didn't even have all of the resources that I need to have to get a loan. So it was really an incredible miracle out of the Lord's hand. And it was amazing how he has provided for this. Right. And he's still providing. So we got the farm and we are busy developing it and building and planting. It's been 5 months of developing the farm. Very intense, the most intense I've ever worked in my life. I thought I worked hard in the structure of Hadassah, but I've never worked this hard in my life. Every night we're so tired, our feet are paining from just restoring the property, restoring the farm. It's been years without really being looked at, and it's been an incredible journey of seeing how the Father provides for what he wants to do, and seeing his faithfulness in one of the biggest faith steps I've ever had to make, in trusting that he will supply everything that we need on this property for us to be able to build the factory and the warehouses and the houses for people to live in. I believe this is going to be like a safe place for the bride to come to. We have the Segula guest house launching this week, and it is really a hidden away treasure in the cleft of the rock. And we really want people to come here and to get healed and to get touched by the Lord and to hear the voice of the Lord and to get that new seed for that new season in their spiritual wombs, for what he wants to do within their lives, for their scrolls to open up. And I really would love to share what he's doing here with everybody. And this is why we are also opening up the guest house, to be able to share it with people, what he's busy doing. And just, we call it Mount Zion. The farm is called Mount Zion. And it is the dwelling place. It is the rebuilding of the tabernacle. It's the rebuilding of the dwelling place and the house of God for him to dwell in and among us and within us, and to see the restoration of the Garden of Eden on the farm, and the restoration of what he meant for us to live within. So there's so many things that we're doing, but the farm is another testimony of his faithfulness.
Yeah, it's amazing. Really a powerful testimony. And I think it links so well to what you said yesterday, that no word, no promise spoken by our Father will return unfulfilled. And he's really coming through on his promises and that he has given you with this farm. So we are excited with you. And we can understand that there's quite a lot of work that you are doing now, but may you really be blessed and fruitful in the work that you do in the farm. And as you say, may it really be a safe haven for the bride to come and just rejoice, restore, renew, and just have community together. But yeah, I think before we close, is there any closing thoughts that you would like to share?
There's so much more than that we can actually speak about on business and ministry. I think a main thing that I would like to leave with people, that they can just pray over and, seek the Lord in, is the mentality that they have, or the mindset that they have, if you are in ministry or not in ministry, but the mindset that you have over your life and the governing over your life. Who is the one truly governing your life, truly governing your ministry? Is it yourself? Is there a part of yourself governing it? Or is it really the Lord that is in the full place of provision and authority and looking after every single thing that you need? I think people have a lot of people do have a poverty mentality when it comes to ministry and when it comes to the things of the Lord. I think there's a lot of people who really misinterpret finances as a whole subject, which is a different subject on its own within ministry. And finances and money really is not supposed to govern you. It's not supposed to even govern your thoughts. It's just a measure to fulfill specific things on the earth. In an earthly realm, it is not something to make that big of an issue on the whole time, because then it becomes an idol. It becomes your driving force. If you are constantly thinking about money and thinking about, do I have enough or do I not have enough? In the beginning, the Father told me he never wanted me to look at the balance in our bank account. And he always, when I had to make a payment, I never looked at the balance. I just made the payment. Until this day, it drives my husband crazy. I never look at the balance, because I'm not in control of it. The Father is taking control of it. He's making sure that everything that we need is in there, and that we are able to pay every salary, every person, all of the things that we're busy with on the farm. And sometimes it's a big stretch in my faith to not fear. It's a big stretch in my faith to not let my mind go into that direction. I don't think I'm going to have enough this month, or I don't think I would be able to buy this. But to just trust the Lord that in every month and in every season, whatever we need, he will provide the fullness of that. So it grows your faith incredibly. Because then you really understand that nothing is in your hand. You do not control anything. He controls it. You are not in control of your finances. He's the one that's in control of it. And if you are faithful in surviving with 100 Rand a month and being able to do that so with such a good character and in so much maturity and stewarding 100 Rand a month so perfectly well, he's going to trust you with 2 million Rand a month, that you have the same amount of pressure to steward than 100 Rand a month. 100 Rand or 200 million, it's the same pressure to steward it correctly. It's just more. It's just bigger amounts. It's just more, but still everything belongs to him. He's in control of everything. And we just need to be faithful, to hear his voice, to trust him with the small things like, am I going to have enough in the bank account to pay the salaries every month? And he really, every single time, he will come and surprise you with his goodness. And then at the end of a task that we need to do, for example, we had a very big task in redoing our labels. And it was very costly. It was much more costly than I thought it would be initially. I think it was like 10 times the amount that it actually took to do it than I thought initially. And if I had to go make that analytic sum of will this be effective, I wouldn't even have done it, because I would have thought I wouldn't have enough capital to do it. But the Lord provided for every single project that we needed to do. In that season, he provided what we needed for that. And still, with new projects that we need to do, he's providing, and all of it. If it is a big house or a dress that you need to minister in, it's all for what he wants to do. Everything is for him. This house and this farm is not my house, and it's not my farm. It's his. And the dress that you're wearing is not your dress. It's his. And if he asks you to take off the dress and to give it to somebody, it's still his dress. It's his shoes on your feet. It is his bread that you're eating, because he's just entrusting you with it. And if you cling on to those things as if they are your own, then it's going to start becoming a difficult, it's going to be a problem for you, because they're not your own. You are a vessel pouring out a purpose, and he's entrusting you with specific things in order to fulfill that purpose.
Thanks, Lucia. And praise Abba for that revelation. And I think trusting him in every season. The seasons are going to look different, and the trust is going to have to be a little bit more in certain seasons than in others. But it's all part of our faith journey and growing in our relationship with him, which is so unique and so different for each and every one of us. But thanks for today and for sharing your testimony, and really just for bringing your revelation on the difference and the mindset that we should have about provision, what Abba has revealed to you about provision.
It's a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.